Right. So, hi everyone. I think it's time to now sit back and relax of this fintech related all the, very hardcore problem statements. Probably, and just talk about very briefly about the problems of people having dementia while using these fintech applications. So this is a agile project we actually worked on with the charity called BUDS, so Better Understanding of Dementia for Stanwell, and also colleagues from Birmingham City University. Right. So the project team is myself. My name is Sayan Sarcar. I am the lecturer in human computer interaction from Birmingham City University, along with Professor Joanne Brook. She's also here. So she's professor from Department of Health and Midwifery, and then also Catherine Jenkins. She was with BCU, but then she moved to the charity now, full-time working. And the project overview, I just would like to highlight a couple of things very quickly. So one is what we did is a literature review and also interview, survey, and co-design study. So we wanted to have a very big question to be asked, like here, where everything is now getting online, fintech, and it's becoming the norm. So what's the situation of people with dementia? Because the spectrum is very huge. People have got, older population where they've got cognitive decline, as well as also young onset dementia is also the key. So we would like to understand the whole spectrum, and of course we just scratched the surface right here, because I've got just only 4 months to work on. But we are trying to understand that in fintech and as well as also human-computer interaction literature, how it looks like what kind of problems people have looked at, and then trying to understand some of the lived experiences of people having dementia. So we try to see that how these two works, and then going forward towards designing something or even maybe modifying some of the current fintech applications. So that was the goal. Sorry. So that's why I said increasing digitalization of financial services, but we are excluding still people living with dementia who face barriers in terms of different aspects, as well as also this exclusion will make the whole financial system more vulnerable sort of stuff. So that's why it matters to really look at this aspect to see that how we can help them support. So first of all, what we did is we did an extensive literature review with 6 different databases, and we have scanned through 4,949, kind of 4,949 records. And then we understood that, okay, looking at fintech applications and looking at the challenges and barriers in the fintech application, not much paper, not much work has been done in this particular area. So we selected 5 studies, and mostly focusing on what was our inclusion criteria was like barriers and challenges in using financial technologies. So what we found is those papers talked about more holistic approaches required. So that means it's not just only we talk to the people having dementia or their caregivers, but also we need to talk to the expert, financial experts. We need to discuss with other stakeholders who are involved in making these financial technologies in a better, more assistive ways. And so simplified interfaces, obviously those papers talked about, but also security strategies and low proficiency challenges and assistive programs are very important, being involved with those as implications towards the designing of more, dementia-friendly interfaces, or UIs, I would say. So limited research, of course, we haven't got much work, and that there is an opportunity to innovate. And then what we go on, so we went on to have an interview study so we looked at of course, the user is the central point. So we looked at people with dementia, living with dementia first. So we interviewed them, semi-structured, online and face-to-face both, along with caregivers also. So sometimes they were accompanied with the caregivers, but sometimes were different, only the caregivers. And then we collected all the information, then do the thematic analysis on those lived experiences, whatever we gathered. What we found is Definitely the barriers we found, like unfamiliarity with current FinTech applications, current FinTech apps, you'd say. Then definitely the scam fears. Most of them would say that, okay, I would not be able to use it because I always having the fear. And I have faced, some people say they have faced this problem already, that their account got blocked for a year or so. Then also numeric reliance and speed. So always they couldn't calculate everything properly. They were not up to much speed in completing their tasks. And always they prefer for cash. They are growing empathy towards like handling things with cash. But also some interesting enablers we found, which is simplification of the current interfaces might be useful for them. So they say that might be, we can try it out if the interface gets more simplified. Then biometric access is also very important. They were thinking that if we can access through our biometrics, and we always feel that that is safe, then dementia-friendly indicators and stuff support are also required. We can talk about that in the posters. And then we did a survey with professional perspectives also, like with the professionals, FinTech professionals, and we found similarity but differences in their opinions. They were thinking that, okay, low digital literacy is the key, but also they were thinking about voice navigation, which the normal people with dementia, they didn't talk about that. And the caregiver permissions, we could talk about those parts maybe later, and power of attorney, which is a bit, there are some overlap, but there are some differences also. And then we did a co-design study. We tried to accommodate all the stakeholders into one co-design session, but we actually had got only people with dementia and their caregivers, living with dementia and their caregivers. But very interestingly, we have found, I just wanted to highlight one particular point, is one particular participant who lived with dementia for the last 20 years, mentioning that designing interfaces to scan data from their debit card. So she has been using different debit cards to have different transactions working on, and she always forgot that what was the balance within that particular account. So if there is an NEC technologies where you can touch the debit card and can see the balance, that will be much more easier and simplistic interface what she thinks of. So more co-design sessions we plan to work on this, but it's kind of interesting aspects and then lots of work to be done. So expand the project to redesign the FinTech app. We haven't decided which particular app yet, but also longitudinal study is also required to understand the lived experience over the period of time with those, kind of proposed applications. And more user-centered and trustworthy interface is required. And feel free to talk to me during the poster session. Yeah?
Sorry.
No problem.